What would you say to those who are just kind of overly critiquing the film at this point? You've worked so hard on it. All right, congrats, Rachel.
Disney's live-action Snow White is here, but it might just flop in the most embarrassing way possible. And in the end, there might be no one left to blame but the main star, Rachel Zegler herself.
Oh my gosh, I saw well, we didn't even see, but I saw the logo and I went, that's my name, Snow White's up there, and I cried my eyes out.
Now, what could she have done to create this tragic mess? And more importantly, how much money are the creators of Snow White about to lose? Let's look at the predictions. Trust us, they're morbid. Officially, the budget is said to be close to $269.4 million, but some insiders are whispering that the actual costs are even higher, possibly creeping past $300 million, thanks to endless reshoots and production delays. That kind of money means this film needs to pull some serious numbers at the box office just to break even, let alone turn a profit. And, well, the numbers we're seeing right now aren't exactly promising.
Disney scaled back the planned lavish premiere for the show to have only a handful of tightly controlled media there. The film has been branded as woke.
Early estimates had the movie's opening weekend sitting somewhere between $63 and $70 million domestically, which, while not fantastic, was at least in the ballpark of success. But then reality set in, and new projections started dropping. Now, the opening weekend is expected to land somewhere between $48 and $58 million. And let's be real, those are not numbers you want when your movie costs more than some countries' annual budgets. And if you think Disney hasn't noticed, think again, the Mouse House is scrambling. Remember how their big live-action movies usually get massive premieres with A-list stars, extravagant red carpets, and media going wild? Yeah, not this time. They're scaling back hard. Red carpet events are toned down, media access is strictly limited, and ticket pre-sales didn't even start until 11 days before release. It's almost like Disney is bracing for impact, trying to soften the blow before the numbers come in. And honestly, that's not exactly a confidence boost. But what has led to such troubling predictions? It all started with Disney's casting decisions. So Disney announced Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, as their brand new Snow White. You'd think, oh, cool, another live-action remake, nothing out of the ordinary, right? Well, no. The internet exploded faster than Cinderella at midnight. Why? Because some folks were not having it. Snow White, they argued, was literally named for her skin as white as snow, a detail straight from the Brothers Grimm fairy tale. And here came Rachel with her Colombian and Polish heritage, stepping into a role that had been, for decades, depicted as the ultimate pale-skinned princess.
Snow White is called Snow White in this version of the film because, of course, she is not white as snow, is because she and her family go through a snowstorm and survive the snowstorm, and so it's a mark of her resilience.
Here's where the online chaos began. People were either thrilled about the representation or extremely mad about what they saw as a betrayal of the original character. But Rachel was not about to take all that criticism lying down. She addressed the backlash head-on, basically saying that Snow White is a fairy tale, a story that belongs to everyone. She pointed out that the character is beloved in Spanish-speaking countries too, and that bringing a fresh perspective to the role was something to be celebrated. But did that calm the storm? Not even close, because then came her next move, the one that sent the traditionalists into full-on meltdown mode. Just when the internet was starting to simmer down, Zegler threw in another log. She called the 1937 animated classic dated. Not just that, she went full critique mode, saying the story focused on a love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
She made it clear that her Snow White wasn't going to be the damsel in distress waiting for Prince Charming. But then, what was this going to be?
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
Well, in her words, her Snow White was going to be an empowered Snow White. And listen, in any other era, this might have been a mic drop moment, but in 2025, oh no. This turned the internet into an absolute war zone. Some fans were cheering, saying it was high time Snow White got an upgrade and that a modern retelling with a strong female lead was exactly what audiences needed. But then there were the purists, the people who'd grown up loving the original film and saw this as Disney trampling all over its own history. At this point, it's not just about Rachel Zegler. This is part of a much bigger conversation in Hollywood. Studios want to be more diverse and inclusive, but every time they make a major casting decision like this, it sparks a wave wave of backlash from fans who want things to stay the way they've always been. We saw this exact same drama when Halle Bailey was cast as Ariel in The Little Mermaid. People were up in arms about it, even though, last time we checked, mermaids weren't real and don't exactly come with a set ethnicity. But just like with Snow White, the debate over staying true to the original versus embracing change turned into an all-out battle. However, if you think her comments about Snow White were the greatest issue, wait till you learn about Rachel Zegler's political standing.
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
So the 2024 election happened, and Donald Trump won re-election. The internet was already in shambles, and then Rachel Zegler jumped in, throwing gasoline on an already raging fire. She hopped on Instagram and posted, "I find myself speechless in the midst of this, another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in." Those are some strong words, right? But she wasn't done yet. She went on to say she worried about raising her future daughter in a world where Trump was president. And then came the line that really had people angry. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. Yeah, she said that on Instagram to millions of followers. And let's just say the internet detonated. Trump supporters, conservative commentators, and even some neutral onlookers were not amused. The backlash came in hot, with social media exploding into calls for boycotts, furious think pieces, and demands for Disney to fire Rachel from Snow White immediately. People were calling her out for being hateful, divisive, and not exactly what you'd call Disney princess material. Some even compared her to Gina Carano, the actress who got the boot from The Mandalorian for her own controversial political takes. After about a week of the internet breathing fire at her, Rachel did what every celebrity in hot water does. She issued an apology. But was it enough? Well, let's break it down. She admitted she let her emotions get the best of her and regretted adding to the negative discourse. She even threw in a little, "We need to respect differing opinions," and promised to be more positive moving forward. But did people buy it? Well, not entirely. Some fans appreciated that she owned up to it, but others were not convinced. They saw it as a classic PR move, a damage control attempt once she realized Disney wasn't going to back her up on this one. And speaking of Disney, let's just say the Mouse House really wanted to stay out of this mess. Despite all the public calls for her to be replaced, Disney never made an official statement. They just let the internet battle it out while they sat in the shadows counting their billions.
They're remaking the movie. They just got rid of the dwarfs. Okay,
but what do they call them?
Why
now,
would they
too?
get rid of
call
the
them
dwarves, though?
Magical creatures.
But let's be real, this controversy added another layer of mess to an already very controversial Snow White remake. And with controversy comes an obviously bad performance at the box office. Now let's put all of this into perspective. Disney's live-action movies have been a mixed bag at the box office. The Little Mermaid opened with $95.6 million and still struggled to reach major profitability, barely crossing $569.6 million worldwide. Cinderella, way back in 2015, opened with $67 million, and yet somehow Snow White might not even reach that. When you're falling short of a film that came out nearly a decade ago, that's not a great look. And here's where things get really tricky. With a budget this big, Snow White needs to make upwards of $800 million worldwide just to break even. To put that in perspective, that's what some of Marvel's biggest movies have struggled to hit in recent years, and those films had superheroes, explosions, and massive fan bases. Snow White is looking at an opening weekend that barely scrapes by, and unless it magically picks up momentum in the following weeks, this could be one of Disney's biggest box office misfires in recent history. So, what happens if it flops? Well, for starters, it could mean Disney rethinks their entire live-action remake strategy. These reimaginings have been a cash cow for them for years. But if a movie with a $300 million budget tanks, they might finally pump the brakes. And let's be honest, with the mixed reception live-action remakes have been getting lately, this might be the breaking point. As we inch closer to the release date, all eyes are on Snow White. Will it manage to surprise everyone and pull off a Cinderella-style turnaround, or not? One thing's for sure, Disney is hoping for a fairy tale ending, but right now, it's looking a lot more like a box office nightmare.